Well, hello, friends. Thanks for dropping by the He Said, She Said. We are hanging out in the wood shop today, and I've got a workbench project going. Now, the workbench you see here next to me is pretty well built. It's been around for a while and has been serving a purpose in my previous workspace. But as I look around my new wood shop and see how things are starting to shape up, the purpose that this was serving before just doesn't make sense in this space. So it's a good sturdy box and it's got some good bones, so rather than completely scrap it and do something totally different, this has some life left in it. So let's see about repurposing it in a way that makes sense for this space. We get to make a little sawdust and have a little fun in the shop. So stick around, more to come. All right, so here we go. With what I've got next to me, this workbench was actually a little bit of a fail from its very beginning. What this originally did, I had a very small workshop. It was a 20-foot land sea container, which is, pretty much right at 20 feet in length, but barely 8 feet wide. So having a workstation that had multiple purposes was an absolute must. In this 24-foot by 24-foot space, I'm a lot more spoiled, so pretty much every tool can kind of get by with having its own footprint. But this, what I think I would like to do is have this become my metals station. It's a good workbench, as I mentioned. It's got good bones, so we're not going to totally throw the baby out with the bathwater. There we go. All right, so that was the easy part. Let's see. I wonder if I can just saw the fasteners, just saw the deck screws that are in there. Let's switch to this guy. See if I can just get right in between there. Ha 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 ha, yes, I win. Fantastic. And, you know, this got beat up a little bit, which is less than ideal, but, you know, we're not building fine furniture here, obviously, so I'm being a little brutal, and that's okay. Next. So I've got some leftover of this white that we've used on the walls, that I figured would make a nice primer coat on this guy. And then I could be mistaken, but I think I've got some more of the green that I did my doors with. And if I do, I'll probably use that for a color coat when it's all said and done. But let's see how that much goes on. right, so while my primer coat is drying, let's visit the old scrap bin and see what we can find for material to make a couple of shelves with. Now again, we're not making fine furniture here, so I kind of don't care what the material is. I kind of don't care if the two shelves match. Just anything to hold up stuff, because we're storing stuff, right? Let's see, actually, this is probably a good candidate. I need 18 and a smidge by 21, so that's actually perfect on the 18. And, oh yeah, I'm sure we've got 21 there. We've got like 28. Awesome, awesome, awesome. That was easy. Okay, so there's one. But I do want to make two shelves. What else is there, boys and girls? I don't really want to use OSB, especially if something's scraping back and forth on it. This'll lift and wear and just get annoying. Well, here's, even a piece of particle board. What have I got here? That is 18 3/4, so that's plenty. So you know what? That would actually work. It's not my favorite material to work with for, well, almost anything, so yeah, probably just as well to use it up here. I don't know, maybe I just make both shelves out of that, and yeah. I think we'll just do that. I think that'll probably be sufficient. If there are any other gems hiding in the... There's a chunk of MDO. No, I'll use the MDO for something else. You always have these prized scraps that you think, oh, that's gold, I'm going to save that for something special, and then special number comes and you have this, well, you have this. So, yeah. So I think we're going to run with this guy. Well before we built this house and this outbuilding, I had seen lumber racks like this, designs on the web, and I always knew, oh, I'm going to build one of those as soon as I get a decent-sized wood shop. Well, somebody actually had this one on Craigslist or something. They were moving and bought it for $100, and it's like there's probably, $200 or $300 worth of lumber in there, let alone these industrial casters that are on it, and the labor to build it. So totally worth jumping in the truck and driving. I don't know, I probably drove an hour and a half to pick it up. So yeah, one of those great little finds. I do not trust the ruler on this table saw. I've been bitten before, so I'm double checking measurements with this tape. Let's see how that fits, because I can always take a little more off. Two shelves, bang, bang. I like it. Now I am using the same roller that I used for the primer coat because I know darn well that this is going to need its second color coat. So even if I get some white swirls in with the deep green that I'm running here, I don't really mind, because by the time I get done with this coat, the roller will have been saturated with the green. And when I do the follow-up coat tomorrow, you won't get the the fun little effect, if you can call it fun, with the white getting swirled in there. So, you know, I'm not color matching something else. This is not the interior of a house. I'm not being super picky about the outcome here. So if I'm getting a variation on the color that came out that it says on the outside of the bucket, I don't care too much. All right, welcome back, friends. Well, I guess you never left. I'm welcoming myself back because, right. Anyway, so got a little bit of a head start before I fired up the camera. The carcass has another coat of paint on it. The vices both actually have a couple more coats. So all that's really left to do is to reassemble the vices, get them mounted, and then move in and get organized. So I'm excited about this last home stretch. Now I would bet that the original finish on this thing was a baked paint that was far more robust than the little surface cosmetic paint job that I've added. But even though it probably won't be near as lasting or rugged, It was fun, and I like the look, so I had to laugh when I was doing the second coat of paint on the carcass. There's a friend of mine that commented on our previous video. Actually, he sent me a text message and said he enjoyed the video, but he says, yeah, anytime I've painted over OSB, it pretty much ends up just looking like paint over OSB. And that's true. So there's, it's very, very true. Wise words, Dean. Thank you for sharing that. You're spot on, as usual. But yeah, there are definitely people out there making fancier looking shop furniture than what I've done. But it is a step up from looking the way it was. So we have some choices to make here. Should we mix them up? I put the tan one over there and the brown one over here. Why not? I know what you're thinking, and it's okay, you can think that. I wouldn't do that to my vice. That's okay, it's not your vice. We all have our vices. This is mine. There are many that look like it, but this one is mine. Alright. Well, there's the finished product. That was kind of fun. Oh, one more thing. One more thing. This is going to be satisfying. I dare say this is going to be very satisfying. Yeah. Sweet. So I've actually made a little shim so that when all is said and done, the top of the vise is pretty much even with the top of the workbench. So, aha, I figured out a way. All right, so there's more than one way to skin a cat, which is gross, by the way. Who came up with that analogy for meaning that there's diverse approaches to things? Anyhow, if you know the origin of that, let me know in the comments. Fun trivia for the day, right? So this little right angle thing for the drill is a little challenging to work with. You have to hold it still and hold the drill and so forth. But anyway, rather than having a regular chuck on it, which makes sense, it's just got a little hex fitting in there, so you can only put hex bits. So then I remember I have this little guy for doing countersink holes, and then this guy flips over, and then there's a Phillips bit on the other side. But if I drop that in there, then I have a short enough beast to get in here and do the pilot holes that I need to do. So, away we go. And again, it's not ideal. It's a little unwieldy to work with, but it's what we've got. Yep. Let's just see if I've got enough clearance to just do this one this way. No, I think we're spot on. Okay. Look at that. All right, so the hard part's over. Not that it was that hard. It's not as though I built this cabinet from scratch within the confines of shooting this video. But now comes the fun part. The fun part is moving in. And that was the means to the end of getting like things together, getting all of my metals related this and that kind of in one spot. For me, a goodly portion of what makes DIY that much more fun is knowing what stuff I have and knowing where it is so that when I need to lay hands on it, I actually can, instead of, I think I've got a, but I can't find it. Oh, screw it. Let me just go to the hardware store and buy another one or what have you. So that was the point to all this. In case you were wondering, is this how to build the most fancy, uber, fantastic workbench there ever was? No. There's people out there building far more elegant shop furniture than this. This was about also partially doing the frugal thing. Even though this wasn't purpose-built from scratch for this exact application, this is also an exercise in frugality to a degree of repurposing an existing item that's perfectly usable to serve a given need. Enough yapping already, let's get moved in. All right, so the top drawer is going to get a couple of these trays that I've found at IKEA that just happen to perfectly fit these drawers. So I got locking pliers and tin snips and the dresser for my grinder wheel and a couple of punches and so forth. That guy will go in there. And then a hacksaw with some spare blades. That'll just barely fit right next to it. That speaks for the first drawer. And on to the second drawer is going to be angle grinder. And a tray with the tools for the angle grinder plus spare cutoff wheels. And that pretty much speaks for that tray. And now the bottom tray is just going to get a couple of odds and ends. I've got a couple of spare grinding wheels here for my bench grinder, and I've got a metal cutting disc. I mentioned at the beginning of the video that there was an old chop saw that I keep a metal cutting blade in that I was aspiring to store here. Well, it turns out it doesn't fit, sadly enough. So the saw itself will have to get stored somewhere else, but for the moment, I don't know where else to store this, so it's going in the bottom drawer. Along with another tray with some files of various sizes, mostly really small, fine files, but then I've got this big guy as well. All right, so that's it for the drawers. Let's move on to the shelves. For a long, long time, I've had this big cardboard box that just was a collection of metal bits of this and that. Here's a small sampling, a very small sampling of what was in there. But I would dig around in that box more often than I would have guessed that I would have, looking for little metal bits of something when I was fabricating who knows what. It varies. But it's nice to have a stash of just strange bits of metal. Now, things like fasteners and screws and drawer pulls and whatnot, those all have a place of their own. This is for, somewhat more obscure things. So the cardboard box was definitely challenging to dig around in. So I found this in another part of the barn that was being underutilized. So I mostly threw away the crap that was in it. And so I am repurposing this little guy for some of this type of hardware. So there's some of it. This guy's going to sit on the bottom shelf with plenty of room left over in that cubby for other things that are yet to be identified. And then one more drawer, mostly things like hose clamps and other types of strappy clamps and some U-brackets and other odds and ends and things of that nature. So that one's going to go there. And then that cardboard box wasn't quite empty yet. So the balance of what was in the box ended up fitting in this little tote, which has been floating around for a long time because it's missing its lid. It was, again, orphaned and underutilized. So yeah, so the balance of what was in that cardboard box fit in here just nicely. So this is going on the next shelf. And again, room to spare in this guy for come what may. Now, I think the only final thing here that's worthy of a little bit of explanation is, why do I have a woodworking style vise on a metals station? Certainly the metals vise at the back of the bench is obvious and serving its purpose. Really, this guy is only for one purpose, and that is when I have my bench grinder out, you'll notice that it's mounted on something that it's just not completely flat. Well, that little tang drops right into the vise, and then I can clamp the vise down, and then the bench grinder doesn't vibrate its way across the bench as it's running. At one point I had a few other tools that I had on a platform of that very same nature that I would secure in the same fashion. I ended up doing different things with those tools, and they have a different home in a different place. But if for no other reason than to put this to use, which was just floating around without any real purpose in life, well, at least now it can serve this purpose. And then the nicer vise that was on there that is something decent I would like to make use of more often with my woodworking projects. Again, that guy's getting transplanted to a different workstation that we'll be building together probably a few months down the road. Okay. And with that, friends, that's one more woodshop organization task complete. I've had it on the brain for what I wanted to repurpose this cabinet to be, so it's satisfying to finally have it done. And there's just one more layer of organization in place, one more bit of joy and utility comes to this workspace. So the more of those things I'm able to get done, the more pleasurable it is to be able to work out here, because I know where everything is. So I hope you've been inspired in some small way to, whether it's to go to your kitchen junk drawer and get it organized and cleaned out. Hope you enjoyed today's project. Thank you each and every one of you for hanging out with us here at He Said, She Shed, and we'll see you really soon. Take care, everyone.